Good morning. Saturday, June 6th. And there's good news. Yesterday in New York City, there were no COVID-19 deaths for the first time since March. Now, maybe we really are on the way to recovery, so let's hang in there and hope for more good news. When I was a kid in the Bronx, nobody liked the landlord. If you needed a new refrigerator, you begged him, and he got your new refrigerator, and he raised your rent by $5 a month. And when the refrigerator was paid up, you still paid $5 a month. Landlords did things like that. It was an accepted practice, but the tenants really didn't like it. Why am I talking about landlords? Well, we now have a situation where there are many retail stores that are going under, and they are going under owing the landlords a lot of money because they haven't been able to pay rent during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I want to tell you at least about one story. Gap owes $66 million to one of the largest mall operators in the country, Simon and Company. Now, Gap is not going to pay that rent. They're planning to go bankrupt. And Simon Property knows that. So what do you think Simon Property does? They sue now for the back rent. But the Gap lost almost $1 billion in profit. The number was astronomical this year. So I'm not so sure what this Simon strategy is. Simon are the people that owns the mall. I don't know what their strategy is. But I have a feeling they could be looking at Gap as a great acquisition. Gap has like 419 stores located in their malls. And Simon took over Aeropostale and Forever 21 recently. So maybe their strategy is that they sue and then they settle on the suit, and maybe Simon ends up a large piece of Gap or owns Gap entirely or something like that. So I think it's a long-term strategy that they're developing here. This could be a strategy developed by all of the mall or the large mall owners, because companies like TJ Maxx and Bed Bath & Beyond and 20-Hour Fitness and the AMC theaters failed to pay rent entirely. And Starbucks has requested landlords to make concessions starting on June 1st. So maybe the landlords would be perfectly happy to be more than landlords. Maybe they'd be perfectly happy to own a slice of the business. If they're going to have clients that are in trouble, then it could be to their benefit to take a slice of the business, right? I mean, if it's going to be from now on that every year somebody gets in trouble and they want to renegotiate the rent, what's the purpose of being a landlord? Landlords have never been liked. As I told you, in the Bronx, we didn't like them, and I don't know that people like them. I don't even think property owners like to be called landlords. They like to be called realtors or something. That has a more positive connotation. Another thing that's very interesting about this situation, and malls evolved because they could provide stores with a large population of people who were going to shop. You had a concentrated area where people could go and wander about and find something they liked and shop, And that was a culture that invaded our lives at a point, because then it became a form of entertainment going to the mall. So COVID-19 has kind of put a big dent in that. So the question now becomes, what's the mall's responsibility to the tenants? If people are not going to go to the malls anymore, what's the bargain of being in a mall? Without the concentration of buyers and the leverage that concentration brings to the table for the sellers, Why do I need to be in a mall? Maybe malls are on their way out. Now, in this case, Gap could argue that the mall failed to deliver their responsibility. They didn't make any buyers available. It wasn't their fault, but that's what happened. So maybe in the future, retailers will maybe pay rent based upon some percentage of people that show up in the mall. If the mall can't bring people to them, then maybe the people won't pay that much rent. So they make a deal, like a rent deal, like it's like going to the stadium. If you don't get enough traffic, then why do I want to be there? So in some way, shape, or form, the fact that the mall didn't deliver the traffic, they need to share in the pain that the retailers are feeling. So we can look in the future that, mall traffic is going to decline in general. This pandemic may have escalated the decline. We're looking at it as the habit has been broken. The mall is not necessarily for entertainment anymore. Now, the mall owners could argue that the reason that the store didn't do well is because you're selling crap. So the whole deal there is that you wouldn't take a person into the mall unless you're selling merchandise that you think is popular, will be popular, will sell. There's two sides to this argument. There's two sides. And maybe when a retailer comes in there and says, I got this stuff and I want to put it in your mall, and then you're going to look at it and say, I don't want it in my mall. That's a whole other side to the business. So I think going forward in the future, realtors are going to be much more careful about who they rent to, perhaps, and maybe people who have businesses are going to look hard at whether or not they belong in a mall, or they're going to cut some kind of deal that allows both the mall and the store owner to profit correctly. Maybe the days of fixed rents are over. And certainly cleanliness and orderliness will be a factor of life in the mall. So that would be the mall's responsibility to take good care of the premises. Let's hope we eventually get back to some form of normalcy when we want to go shopping. Right now, I'm getting tired of wearing my mask into the store. Okay, I'll see you in the morning. Bye.